As we're ringing in the new year, I thought I'd start 2018 by addressing a comment I received on Boxing Day. Now, ordinarily, I would have ignored the comment, loved it, which I think I did, pinned it if it entertained me enough, or responded sexually. I think I've done all of those. But in this instance, it didn't seem to be enough. And as there are a few rather entertaining comments within it, I think it's only right that I devote an entire video to it. So let's begin. Kraut was right, because anything he says right now, ever, past, present, future, has any validity or integrity to it. We are talking about somebody who was once one of the most respected internet intellectuals, and then he allowed his obsession to control him, and it kind of destroyed him. Kind of like Spinosaurus-Kin. The majority of you so-called freedom of thought, which everyone already has unless governments are already implanting chips in people's brains.
They turn the friggin' frogs gay!
And speech types on YouTube are just right-wing apologists. Yes, we are, totally. Here we have some Brit named Omegon, I feel internet famous, living in a country where no one has to die because doctors won't take insurance policies they don't personally like. Yes, but we do have rather long waiting lists, so people do die without seeing a doctor. Talking about my miserable president, I just want to clarify it. Have you asked your president if he's in fact miserable? Because I'm sure with all those delightful golfing holidays and all the people he's triggering on Twitter, he's laughing his ass off in the Oval Office, who supports taking away school lunch programs for poor children. Are you addressing the policy that takes away school lunches from immigrant children? I'm not entirely in favour of it, but I understand why he does it, or why he wishes to implement it, if he hasn't already. And I say this as somebody whose schools didn't have free lunches. Some schools do have that, but it's not available for everyone in this country. My glorious country that you're clearly quite jealous of. What would you rather do? Salute your miserable president, or kneel before my queen and kiss her ring? Taking away Obamacare, which he just did by removing the personal mandate. Let's just have a quick look at this. And also, I want to point out, not relevant to my video, which was on Owen Jones not entirely being truthful about his complaints about Donald Trump, most of which could be summarized as he's a Nazi. Now, to address this Obamacare bit, because I think it's rather interesting, there was a statement Trump made and the sentence reads, "The individual mandate is being repealed." Kind of true. There's no part of the law that has been in fact repealed. Republicans have tried and failed to repeal the law. They did, however, zero out the tax. And yes, it does mean by 2027, 13 million people potentially could be without insurance. And I have no positive answer to counter that with. I have NHS, something which I'm not convinced could be implemented in your country. And I'm not entirely sure how Obamacare helped, since I saw many people complain about what Obamacare actually did. Another quote reads, "When the individual mandate is being repealed, that means Obamacare is repealed," which is inaccurate. Because basically, while they still are required to have insurance, they just won't face a fine. That's where Trump thinks there's a repeal and it's not. And a final quote. "But Obamacare has been repealed in this bill. Elements of the Affordable Care Act Republicans haven't been able to touch include protections for those with pre-existing conditions, the requirement that insurers provide comprehensive coverage, subsidies to reduce premiums of low and moderate income consumers, and the expansion of Medicaid to low-income adults." Let's continue, because honestly, there are a few more comments you leave, and I want to address them all. "Appointed a man for FCC chairman who just ended net neutrality. What's your point? You're just pointing out the bad aspect that you see as bad aspects of a president, your miserable president. That's all you're doing." I was debunking, quotes debunking, Owen Jones, and the points he made. I didn't then have to go out of my way to then tell him what he should have said to make a more concrete video talking about Donald Trump, and the net neutrality thing is vastly more complicated. Great job, Omegon. Yay. Conveniently leave out all the things Trump actually stands for and wants to do. He also wants to build a wall. Why didn't you include that in your comment? You should issue a public apology for that. So as you can see, I loved it. I pinned the comment, and then I replied. This is my new favourite comment I've ever received. I've done that once before. This comment, as stated, was sent on Boxing Day. Boxing Day for me was my actual Christmas Day, because my sister had her 2 children with their dad, visiting rights and everything on Christmas Day. They were returned to us late Christmas Day, so we had Christmas Day on Boxing Day with them. So what time I had to spend with you, or devote to replying to your comment, was limited. In fact, I was setting up the dinner table when you sent it. So let's read your reply. Attack the silly and dangerous SJWs all you want, because they actually deserve the hatred they receive. They receive no hatred from me. You'd know that if you watched my content, The Mobile Homestead. I make it a point to be nice, unless they advocate for violence or enable pedophiles. attack the more silly types of liberal for giving Trump a hard time for things he doesn't deserve. But if you disregard the irrefutable facts showing my president never paid off any bills he accrued for any of his businesses, who gives a fuck what he did with his businesses? Honestly, and still support a person like that means you're just a slimy right-wing apologist. I might be slimy, but mostly because I'm moist. But I'm not a right-wing apologist, and I'm still not convinced Trump's a Republican. If you say that you believe in truth and freedom of speech, and you disregard the irrefutable facts showing that Trump is on board with the idea that net neutrality gets in the way of cable companies here in the US making even more money, means you're just a slimy right-wing apologist. That does not make me a right-wing apologist. Capitalist, yes, but I don't really care enough for labels. And as I said, the net neutrality thing is vastly more complicated than simply allowing companies to make more money. Although I have heard many arguments about the whole certain sections, regions of your country being dominated by one company instead. Totally like net neutrality works, huh? Anyway, let's continue. So just come out and say you're a slimy right-wing apologist. Don't need to. I'm not one. Don't pretend otherwise. Is there 2 spaces there between the pretend and otherwise? Doesn't matter. If that's not the case, then man up and make an apology video stating how you didn't know that Trump would take away poor people's healthcare in the only democracy on the planet that still wants to tell people they just don't deserve any help. No, because that wasn't the point of my video. The point of my video was to contend some of the points that he was making about Trump visiting my country. None of this is relevant. You know this, dickhead. Tell people here that all you heard coming from Trump was what you wanted to hear. I'll be honest, 4 years before he was elected, I predicted he'd be it in my very first Instagram post. The fact he won is still to me one of the funniest things that happened in 2016. Brexit was right behind it. They helped. Tell them you're sorry now to be giving support to a president I don't support. Your president. I think your president is hilarious. Of a country who openly stands with the American Republican Party in their search to only benefit their richest citizens. I couldn't give a fuck what your Republican Party want. Again, I'm British. To me, it's fascinating to watch. Watching your parties divide further and further, being unable to reach a middle ground, which is a shame really, because that would really help move things forward and show that people could in fact work together. But instead, on both sides, whenever someone loses, there are always the extreme ones that get incredibly salty, just like you. And you left one more comment and I replied to you, so I'm gonna read that. My comment, that's right, pwn me. Pwn me hard. What are you, some stupid kid? Pwn me? That's your answer? Yes. Kind of lame-ass answer for a guy trying to make videos showing how uninformed... Unformed? Okay. And lame SJWs are informed. This just shows my original comment concerning Kraut is absolutely correct, and I stand by this certificate that says while Kraut may be correct, he has actual, literal, no credibility. You have to be a total right-wing moron who lives in a country where no one dies because they can't afford medical insurance. No one loses their homes and have to live in their cars because in order to pay for hospital bills they had to sell everything. No, but we don't have enough homes, so we have quite a lot of homeless people and people made homeless in unfortunate circumstances. It's not exclusive to America, and we have enough issues with our NHS, which, if you cared enough about, you'd pay attention to. I did just mention quite early on that we have quite a lot of people waiting. While the NHS sets their budget, it never seems to be enough. All the while supporting some other country's president, who spelled countries wrong, who thinks that his citizens don't have a right to medical help. I don't care about your president. I don't care about your politics. I care when somebody in my country is misinforming on it. And when someone in your country makes a video on politics and it's hilarious, I'll make a video on it because it's funny. So to end, I replied, I'm typing this because I'm enjoying a belated Christmas dinner with my family, and I couldn't give 2 shits about this thread at the moment. Not nice, I know, but I think most would prefer the sexual humour to an actual response to some overly emotional dipshit that is too triggered by a few comments on a video that it doesn't even concern half the drivel you brought up. Now do yourself a favour and enjoy your Boxing Day. And I mean every single word of that. I hope you did enjoy yours. I don't care what you think, because for the most part I think you are wrong, or because you are simply airing your own frustrations, which, based on all the ... which I do quite a lot of, amuses me. Now just before we finish, I want to address something that I brought up on Discord the other day. It had been stuck in my head for a while, and it amused me. I want to coin a term for something where someone gets so obsessed, their obsession takes control, and they end up paying the price for it. There are two obvious people that have been afflicted by this, the first being Spineless Foreskin for his obsession with Lauren Southern for over a year. And Spino, if you ever see this, as much as I like you, I remember all those Skype messages and all the hotkeys you had. Yeah, creepy. And Kraut. Let's call it krAUTISM, but make the K and the R silent, so it's a totally new word. We'll call it autism. You're welcome. But spell it krAUTISM. Have a nice day.